Nan Fan is a member of Chen's group whose grandfather forced him to marry someone else and leave his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Nan has been preparing for the wedding, but when he arrives, he meets another woman and they start fighting. Chia grabs the bride's hand, slaps himself, and screams for help. At this point, he comes and blames her for what happened, but her grandfather stops her. A few days later, she cooks dinner for him and is told by Chia that she is spending the night with him. However, since he was still working, it was a lie. Since they don't want her, her sister-in-law and mother-in-law come to visit her and start humiliating her. The mother-in-law snaps when she and the daughter-in-law start fighting. He comes to accuse her, but she prefers to leave peacefully. We see that many years ago she suffered grief over the death of her grandfather. He appeared and comforted her, even protected her from her enemies, and she fell in love with him. Back to reality, she was very upset. Her childhood friend and heir to the Gu family, Jiran, offers to take her home. However, she refuses and decides to travel alone. Upon arriving home, she suddenly collapses. While putting her to bed, her mother calls him, informing him that Chia is in the hospital because she wanted to go to God. He falls to the ground without getting up. Afterward, she leaves the hospital with her friend. At that moment, they notice that her husband is with Chia. Chia pretends to faint to get the attention of her friend, who complains about leaving his wife alone. The friend is fired from the company the next day. She complains to her husband, and he replies that he doesn't know anything. Her grandfather comes in, upset about the company's affairs. He starts beating him for his mistakes, but she steps in to protect him and then heals his wounds. When he has a drink in the evening, he remembers how she took care of him. At this point, Chia comes over and starts seducing him, but he refuses. At home, she sings to him on his birthday, makes a cake for him, and upon receiving the cake, he does not hesitate to kiss her, spending their first night together. She then hears him talking in his sleep and calling her Chia, and is disappointed as he leaves. However, he actually tells her that he loves his new wife. When she woke up, she found the divorce agreement. We see that Chia has put it in her clothes. Finding it, the protagonist is devastated and signs it and leaves. Until he is informed that his grandfather is in the hospital, he despairs and starts looking for her. Upon arrival, her grandfather tells her that he talked the protagonist into marrying a bad woman because Chia is bad. Out of his last strength, he tells her that she should leave him with a good woman. Later, they get together to confirm the divorce. She refuses when he tries to convince her to come back to his side. Afterwards, he thinks of her less and less often. He discovers her diary among his belongings. He realizes that she always loved him, even when they were young, by reading it. 5 years later, she drops in on him at a business meeting, and he still remembers her. His best friend quickly finds time to talk to her, but she refuses. Afterward, her friend kisses her on the forehead, pretending that he is her boyfriend. She slaps him when he gets jealous. Chia continues to pursue him while he is looking for her all this time. However, he always avoids meeting her. They spend their meetings in company. Chia tries to offend him by treating her like a maid, but she becomes a director of a large company instead. They stumble over each other as he tries to explain something to her in the office. However, Chia interrupts them and drags her away. She looks at him with derision. Later, Chia tells him that her mother is already preparing for the wedding, but she shouldn't because he is only thinking of his younger sister. The woman then meets the protagonist and offers her money as compensation for leaving her son alone. Enraged, the woman tries to hit her when she refuses. But the boy stops her and asks that she not interfere with his life. She wears earrings to a charity event. Both boys compete for huge sums of money. Eventually, the boy wins and approaches her romantically, but she turns him down and tells him to stop cheating. She returns home and meets her young daughter, but she doesn't notice it and takes a picture of them. While he is drinking, Chia comes in and shows him pictures and informs him that the main character has a child with another man. This makes him even more upset. The next day, he follows her to see if it is true. Subsequently, she receives a call informing her that the girl is missing. We see them eating ice cream with the boy. He takes her home and she meets him crying. He gives her a paternity test and declares that she will be in charge of raising his daughter from now on. To spend more time together, he picks her up from school and drives her to the company. As he leaves the office, Chia appears and announces to the girl that she will be his stepmother. The girl throws a water pistol at her. Enraged, he asks her to stay away from his daughter and is overjoyed when she says daddy to him. Elsewhere, she meets an investor who wants to go overboard and brings out the toilet to disguise himself. He accidentally puts something in her drink. She punches him when he tries to kiss her. Nevertheless, she begins to feel dizzy. The boy comes over, pats him on the cheek, and carries her away in his arms. When he places her on the ground, she begins to kiss him. However, he modestly stops. The next day, Jiran tells her how he feels. She apologizes and declares that she does not love him, considering him only a friend. After the young man's younger sister notices all this, she approaches him to express her feelings to him, but he refuses. Taking advantage of the circumstances, Chia tells the girl that Jiran will accept her if the protagonist disappears. Desperate, the girl decides to leave the protagonist, but the boy swoops in and saves her. Since she had minor injuries, he takes care of her in the hospital. Taking advantage of the circumstances, he tries to kiss her, but her mother and sister prevent him from doing so. Finally, the woman opens her eyes when the boy tells them that Chia is bad. Then, as she leaves, Chia stops by to visit him, but the man and the girl reject her. Soon his daughter calls him and informs him that the protagonist has fainted. Realizing that she has weakened due to overwork, he immediately goes to help her. He gives her a massage afterward. She was still shy, but eventually they kissed. Within days, her mother-in-law and sister-in-law come to apologize to her, and she quickly becomes attached to her granddaughter. However, she gets a phone call at this point. Chia, who wanted to leave with Diosito, was detained by the arrivals. She is annoyed and complains to the boy about his refusals. He tries to explain everything to her, but Chia faints, which allows him to stop her. Next meeting with the CEO, Jiran announces to him that he is now the largest shareholder. He is surprised to learn that his half-brother is applying to be the chairman of Chen Group's board of directors. However, he refuses, and they decide to settle it at the shareholders' meeting. At home, he asks her what will happen if he loses everything. They kiss and show their love, saying that she will always be by his side no matter what happens. Things ended badly for Jiran at the shareholders' meeting because his grandfather had foreseen everything that such problems would happen before he died. Also, Jiran had no way of knowing about the CEO's plans when they were revealed. Afterward, he arranges an unexpected surprise for her. He proposes to her, promising to love her for life, and she happily accepts. After breakfast, the family suddenly feels ill. She happily informs him that she is pregnant. This is where the beautiful love story ends as he embraces her.